Okay. So good afternoon, dear students. How are you all doing? I'm sure you are doing fantastic. Okay. So friends, we had started trade policy in our last class. Okay. So if somebody has not done the previous class, as far as trade policy is concerned, there will be a little difficulty in understanding because trade policy we had started in our last class only. Okay. So yes, let me continue. We will be discussing trade policy today. Only one paragraph export related measures was left. So I'll complete that and we will move on to the unit which
Recording
deals
in
with,
progress.
then we will move on to the unit which deals with trade negotiations. So friends, I repeat, trade policy we had begun in our last class. So if you have not understood the last class or not seen the last class, then the first part of today's class will be a little difficult to understand because that is related to last class, that is trade policy. Okay, only one paragraph is left, not much. So we will complete trade policy and then today we will also complete and also practice trade negotiation. Okay, understood? And then next day, next unit. Okay, so let's start then. So let's start then. Okay, the name of the topic is export related measures. सर आप बताइए हम लोग यहाँ क्या पढ़ने वाले हैं? सर what are we going to study here in this heading export related measures? Okay, so what are we going to study under this heading export related measures? Could you elaborate for us? Yes, हम आपको बताएंगे बिल्कुल. एक बार इंग्लिश में बोलता हूं, एक बार हिंदी में बोलूंगा, ठीक है? In English, if I translate it for you, export related measures refers, I repeat, export, yes, repeat, हाँ बोलिए, sorry, sorry, there was, can we begin? Okay, so everyone please confirm whether the audio video is clear so that we can continue. Or tech support, please confirm whether we can start. Okay, so I should continue, right? Okay. So friends, we are going to study as far as trade policy is concerned, we are going to study export related measures. हम लोग export related measures अभी पढ़ने वाले हैं. So friends, when we talk about export related measures is undertaken by the exporting country. By who? By the exporting country. Right? So friends, here we are going to talk about measures taken by the exporting country. सर यहाँ हम लोग क्या पढ़ने वाले हैं? क्या कदम एक्सपोर्ट करने वाली कंट्री की गवर्नमेंट उठाएगी फॉर एक्सपोर्ट्स, वो हम लोग यहाँ पढ़ने वाले हैं. सर इट कैन बी डिवाइडेड इनटू टू पार्ट्स. नंबर वन, those measures that are going to promote exports, those measures that are going to promote exports, जिससे exports बढ़ेगा. और to the contrary, there are measures that are going to promote or boost lesser export or promote lesser exporting. अंडरस्टूड? जिससे एक्सपोर्ट घटेगा. तो दोनों तरीके के मेजर्स हो सकते हैं, हम लोग दोनों यहां पढ़ने वाले हैं. क्लियर है एवरीबॉडी? क्या पढ़ना है अपने को? क्लियर है एवरीवन? Okay, fantastic. So now we are going to start export related measures which was left in trade policy. Okay, so see, number one is to reduce exports. Everybody write down in the chat, to reduce exports. What will the exporting country government do? What will the exporting country government do? Exporting country की सरकार क्या करेगी बताएं आप लोग हमें. ठीक बोला, exports को बैन कर देगी. Ban on exports, correct. Ban on exports. So exporting country government will put a ban on exports. Why? Why? Generally, this is generally done when there is shortage in exporting country, 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 when there is shortage in exporting country. आप सोच के देखें, I'll give you an example both in English and in Hindi. This, these are some farmers, okay? These are some farmers, suppose in US, United States of America. Now, normally these farmers collectively export some, let's say for example, some rice and wheat out of USA. But suppose if there is a famine, there is a shortage of food in USA, will the USA government allow the farmers to export food? Tell me this. आप लोग बताइए कॉमन सेंस से. मान लीजिए कि यूएस के फार्मर्स एक्सपोर्ट करते हैं राइस एंड व्हीट. यूएसए में किसी साल ऐसा होता है कि आप समझ लीजिए फमाइन आ जाता है, फूड शॉर्टेज आ जाता है, तो क्या यूएसए की सरकार यूएस के फार्मर्स लोग को अब एक्सपोर्ट करने देगी? नहीं. दैट इज कॉल्ड बैन ऑन एक्सपोर्ट्स. सो फ्रेंड्स, ये मेजर तब लिया जाता है जब there is shortage. There can be other conditions too. For example, there is not a very good relation with the other country. The opposite country is my enemy country. Okay, if the opposite country is my enemy country, I can tell my exporter that you will not send anything in that country. That can happen. Common sense, yes or no, guys? Okay, great, great. Yes, sir, we understand that. Yes, sir, we understand that. Yes, sir, we understand that. So, what did I tell you guys? What did I tell you guys? Yes, first feed your own belly, then others. Correct, Karthik. Correct, Karthik. Correct, Nishi. Correct, Divya. Rajneet. Correct. Ranjit. Correct answer. So, friends, this is what I was going to tell you, that generally done when there is a shortage in the exporting country. बेचने वाली कंट्री में यदि शॉर्टेज हो तो ये मेजर्स लिए जाते हैं. क्लियर है? मूविंग ऑन. एक्सपोर्ट टैक्सेस. Export taxes. Friends, what are export taxes? Friends, what are export taxes? Let's try and understand everybody. Friends, what are export taxes? Let's try and understand everyone. Let's try and understand everybody. What are export taxes? What are export taxes? Okay. Let's try and understand everyone. See, just like when you import, जब आप खरीदते हो, there is an import duty or import tax levied. On exports also it can be levied, both ad valorem, that is on the value of the entire commodity, or unit wise, that is 100 rupees per unit of exports. So export taxes can be imposed. A very common sense. Okay. So it is intends to reduce exports. जिससे exports कम हो, intends to reduce exports. Increase domestic supply means the availability of the product in my country should be there. Increasing domestic supply. Now, friends, you all have studied microeconomics. If supply in my country increases, then in my country prices will fall. Reduce prices. See, there is a direct relation. Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? You have done that chapter equilibrium, right? It was under the market. It was under the concept market, excess demand, excess supply. So suppose this is demand and this is supply. So demand and supply right now are equal. Okay, that is, we are talking about equilibrium here. Okay, if there is an increase in demand, so there is excess demand. If there is excess demand, prices are going to rise. But if there is excess supply, prices are going to fall. So this way, number one, export is reduced, domestic supply is increased, and hence the prices in my country are reduced. Yes, Anjali, you can watch it. No issues. फ्रेंड्स, इज दैट क्लियर, क्रिस्टल क्लियर? हिंदी में बोलूं तो एक्सपोर्ट टैक्सेस में क्या होता है कि जो एक्सपोर्टिंग कंट्री की सरकार है, गवर्नमेंट है, वो क्या करती है, वो हट जाता है अपनी डोमेस्टिक कंट्री में, और प्राइसेस इस वजह से डोमेस्टिक कंट्री में यानी एक्सपोर्टिंग कंट्री में घट जाता है। बताइए, चमका नहीं चमका एवरीवन? Is that clear, everyone? But friends, if you see the first two methods, that they were intending to reduce exports. Yes or no? Reduce or completely kill exports. The first two methods I am talking about were intending to either reduce exports or completely kill exports. Yes or no, dear students? Yes, sir, you are indeed correct. Friends, now I move on to the third one. Now I move on to the third one. Now I move on to the third one. Okay, so let's talk about that now. Let's talk about that now. The third one, the third one, the third one. Let's talk about the third one. In the third one, what happens, dear students, is we talk about export subsidies and incentives. We talk about export subsidies and incentives. Here, the exporting country government is happy. Here, the exporting country government is happy that exports are taking place. Rather, they want exports to take place. So, instead of imposing taxes on the exporters in their country, they rather reward them with subsidies. But sir, what is the cause of this happiness? You try and understand that if somebody from India is exporting to US, that is America, then they will earn in US dollars. So US dollars will come to India. So India is getting richer in foreign currency. So the value of rupee will improve. So the value of rupee will improve. हिंदी में बोलिए सर। कभी कभी या मेजोरिटी टाइम एक्सपोर्टिंग कंट्री की गवर्नमेंट खुश होती है कि हमारे यहाँ के लोग एक्सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं। क्यों? क्योंकि जब हमारे यहाँ के लोग एक्सपोर्ट करते हैं यानी कि सामान बाहर बेचते बेचते हैं, उस वजह से फॉरेन करेंसी हमारे कंट्री में आता है, जिसकी वजह से हमारी कंट्री के करेंसी का कीमत ऊपर चला जाता है, जिसकी वजह से हमारी कंट्री की करेंसी का इज्जत ऊपर चला जाता है, जिसकी वजह से कंट्री का रेपुटेशन मार्केट में बेटर हो जाता है। क्लियर है नहीं क्लियर है बोलो? यस सर, इट्स क्रिस्टल क्लियर टू अस। यस सर, इट्स क्रिस्टल क्लियर टू अस। गुड न्यूज। सो लेट्स राइट इट डाउन। दे इंक्लूड, and what are subsidies we have done in national income class? They include export subsidies. They include export subsidies, right? They include export subsidies. Duty drawbacks. Duty drawbacks. Loans from government, etc. Sir, what is duty drawback? Explain कीजिए। From government, etc. Sir, what is duty drawback? Sir, duty drawback तो आपने हमें बताया नहीं। Friends, what happens is sometimes the seller or the exporter does not know that who is going to buy the product. मतलब एक्सपोर्टर को काफी बार ये नहीं पता होता है कि ये जो फलाना सामान है ये एक्सपोर्ट किया जाएगा यानी कि विदेश में बेचा जाएगा, ये हमारी कंट्री में ही बिक जाएगा। सो व्हाट हैपेंस इज द गवर्नमेंट चार्जेस टैक्स इनिशियली, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग टैक्स लाइक एक्साइज ड्यूटी, बट if we export that commodity, government is happy, so the tax that government had taken from us, for example excise duty, that is manufacturing tax, government returns it to us। अंडरस्टूड? दैट इज कॉल्ड ड्यूटी ड्रॉबैक। जो टैक्स दिए थे वो वापस आ गया। यस और नो बोलना पड़ेगा दोस्तों। कम ऑन गाइस। ओके, वेरी गुड। एंड द नेक्स्ट पॉइंट, दैट इज द फोर्थ वन। Friends, the next point, that is the fourth one we are going to speak about, is voluntary export restraints। Voluntary export restraints। अच्छा, if somebody has not copied or taken a screenshot, can do that right away। Can do that right away। I'm waiting, no issues। Okay, done, sir. Done, 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 sir. So let's talk about voluntary. Let's talk about everybody voluntary export restraints. Voluntary export restraints. Voluntary export restraints. Sir, what is it exactly? Now, what happens here? It is like a temporary restriction. It is like a temporary, temporary restriction. Restriction. Quota. So basically, what happens is, suppose example, for example, our Indian government, suppose for our example, Indian government. Now, our Indian government sees that the person who has become the prime minister, or you could say the president or the prime minister of Maldives, our Indian government does not like them. Suppose. So, what our Indian government may do is that any export from India to Maldives for the next 5 years is going to be limited to, suppose India exports rice. Okay. So it is going to be limited to 100 tons. Is going to be limited to 100 tons and not beyond 100 tons. Why? Because Indian government is not happy the way Maldives government is dealing with India politically. So these are generally based on political considerations. And if the importing country, Maldives, improves their relation with India, then Indian government can remove this restriction of quota. Quota, you all remember, maximum quantity that can be exported or sold to a neighboring or to a foreign country is called quota. Maximum quantity it prescribes. Right, sir? We understood. So it prescribes the maximum quantity. It prescribes the maximum quantity that can be exported. It is generally based on political considerations. Generally based on political considerations. Friends, hopefully this much is crystal clear to you all. Friends, hopefully this much is crystal clear to you all. Please confirm everyone so that we can start with trade negotiations. So that we can start with trade negotiations. Come on, everybody. Come on, everyone. Please confirm, everybody. Awaiting your confirmation, dear students. And this completes, boom, trade policy. Now we are going to talk about trade negotiations. Trade negotiations. Only if all of you students confirm. Sir, कोटा explain in Hindi one time. खुशी is telling. खुशी, कोटा का मतलब होता है बस बहुत हुआ. मतलब मैक्सिमम क्वांटिटी जो हमारी कंट्री किसी और कंट्री को बेच सकती है उसे कोटा कहते हैं. बोलते हैं ना, काफी बार ऐसा होता है ना, हम लोग खा लेते हैं तो जब हमारा पेट भर जाए तो हम लोग बोलते हैं कोटा पूरा हो गया. दैट इज व्हाट कोटा इज, मैक्सिमम क्वांटिटी. गॉट इट? ऑल राइट, ऑल राइट, ऑल राइट. Very good, very good, very good. So now, friends, let's talk further. Friends, let's talk further. Now we are going to speak about the new topic, trade negotiations. Trade negotiations. Trade negotiations. A very simple topic, a very easy topic, a very small topic. Okay, great. So now what is trade negotiation? Sir, now what is trade negotiation? Friends, recently in last year or two, there was G20 held. How many of you have heard of G20? I will write it for you all. G20 here. Because we are talking trade negotiations, so we must talk about G20. Yes. So what is G20? It's basically 20 top economies of the world coming together and taking decisions about the sustainability and the future prospects of the world. Yes or no, dear students? Yes or no, dear students? Yes, sir. Everybody's telling yes, sir. We do agree. Bus. That is what trade negotiation is. That is what trade negotiation is. That is what trade negotiation is. Here we are going to talk about different agreements between countries favoring each other. इस चैप्टर में हम लोग अलग अलग ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस, अलग अलग अग्रीमेंट्स के बारे में जानेंगे जो कंट्रीज के बीच में हुआ है ट्रेड को प्रमोट करने के लिए, गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज का बाइंग एंड सेलिंग को प्रमोट करने के लिए. वॉट एवर अग्रीमेंट्स हैव टेकन प्लेस is basically the subject of this chapter. Hopefully it's crystal clear. Exactly. So this chapter talks about organizations or groupings like G20. How many of you have understood what the essence of this chapter is or this unit is? How many of you have understood? किनको समझ में आ गया कि मूल भाव क्या है इस चैप्टर का? मूल बात क्या कह रहा है ये चैप्टर? किसको किसको समझ आ गया? ये बात करता है उन ग्रुपिंग्स के बारे में, इकोनॉमिक हो या बेसिकली ट्रेड रिलेटेड हो, जिसका एजेंडा है कंट्रीज के बीच में चीजों की खरीदने की और बेचने की जो प्रक्रिया है उसको और विकसित किया जाए, उसको और बढ़ाया जाए. समझ में आया? Right, sir, we have understood. So now please explain the different concepts. Okay. So friends, the first full form you must know, as you will be appearing for MCQ kind of examination, is RTA. RTA. Friends, what does RTA stand for? Regional Trade Agreement. 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 Friends, that is what RTA is all about. Regional Trade Agreement is all about. Sir, what is it? It is basically grouping of countries. Grouping of countries and agreement between countries. Bus. It is exactly that. Okay, so sir, let's write it down. Grouping of countries formed with the objective of reducing barriers to trade between them, reducing barriers to trade with 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 them. बस, that is regional trade agreement. बीच की दीवार तोड़ देना जिससे ट्रेड और फ्रीली हो सके, उसे रीजनल ट्रेड अग्रीमेंट कहते हैं. इज दैट क्लियर फ्रेंड्स? Is that clear, friends? That is regional trade agreement. Regional trade agreement. Grouping of countries formed with the objective of reducing barriers to trade between them. Barriers to trade between them. Barriers to trade between them. Okay, fantastic. So that is what regional RTA is. That is what, dear students, regional trade agreement RTA is all about. That is what the friends RTA, regional trade agreement, is all about. Hopefully it's crystal clear to you all. Okay, fantastic. Now let's talk about it further. Grouping of countries formed with the objective of reducing balance trade between them. Okay. Now, friends, different types of trade agreements. Okay. Different types of trade agreements. Let's try and understand. Okay. different types of trade agreements. Friends, from MCQ point of view, we are going to discuss different types of trade agreements. Different types of trade agreements. अलग अलग तरीके के ट्रेड अग्रीमेंट्स के बारे में हम और आप जानने वाले हैं. Different types of trade agreements. All right, everybody. Yes, sir. Please shoot further. We are ready. Number one is, friends, unilateral trade agreements. Number one is, sir, unilateral trade agreements. Number one is, sir, unilateral trade agreements. What is unilateral trade agreements? Simple में बताऊं, एक तरफा प्यार. This is unilateral trade agreement. Basically, what happens here is, friends, that the importing country offers incentives. Importing country offers incentives to encourage the exporting country to improve their economy. So basically, importing country is telling the exporting country, exporting nation को बोलता है कि exporting nation, सुनो, तुम्हारी इकोनॉमी को इंप्रूव करने के लिए हम तुम्हें ये फायदा दे रहे हैं. उदाहरण के तौर पर मैं बताऊं, फॉर एग्जाम्पल आई विल टेल यू दैट सपोज India, there was Russia and Ukraine war going on. Was actually it is going on, I should say. Whatever it is. See. So now what happens is, now Russia's oil sale reduced. Russia's oil sale reduced. So what did India do? Suppose, for example, India tells Russia that Russia, if anyone from our country imports oil from you, for the time being, we are not going to impose any import tax. Why? As this will make Russian oil cheaper for the Indian petrochemical companies to purchase, and therefore the exports of Russia and imports of India from Russia will increase, which will put money into Russia's hands and thus strengthen Russia's economy. सर, हिंदी में बताएं. अगर इंडिया रशिया को बोलता है कि भाई रशिया, हम तुमसे अगर ऑयल खरीदेंगे उस पर हम कोई टैक्स नहीं लगाएंगे, तो इससे रशिया की जो ऑयल है वो इंडियंस के लिए सस्ती होगी. इसकी वजह से रशिया का एक्सपोर्ट्स बढ़ेगा इंडिया में, जिसकी वजह से रशिया के लोगों के पास पैसा जाएगा, रशिया की सरकार के पास पैसा जाएगा, एंड रशिया की इकोनॉमी इंप्रूव होगी. उम्मीद है बात समझ में आया होगा. होपफुली द थिंग इज crystal clear. Yes or no, everybody? Come on, guys. Yes, sir. So, importing country offers incentive. Importing country offers incentive. Importing country offers incentive to encourage the exporting country, to encourage the exporting country, to encourage the exporting country, to encourage the exporting country to improve its economy, to improve exporting country's economy, to improve exporting countries economy, to improve exporting countries economy, to improve exporting countries economy. Friends, is that clear, friends? Yes or no, friends? That is unilateral trade agreements. This point is unilateral trade agreements. All right, great, sir. Next is bilateral agreement. That you have understood. Mutual consent. Mutual consent. That is it. Bilateral agreement. Bilateral agreements. Bilateral agreements. Bilateral agreements. So let's talk about bilateral agreements. Friends, let's talk about bilateral agreements. Let's talk about bilateral agreements. Okay, so let's talk about it, friends. Friends, is that clear, friends? So now what I tell you all is bilateral agreements is basically both sided. Bilateral agreement is both sided. Okay, so let's write it down. Bilateral agreement, 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 which sets rules of trade between two countries. Rules of trade between two countries. Between two countries. Example, EU, South Africa. EU, South Africa, free trade agreement. Free trade agreement. So it is like two countries now. EU consists of multiple countries. EU is basically European Union and SA is South Africa. So this is mutually going on. Na? That is why it is bilateral agreement between two countries or two organizations. It can be anything. Two parties are involved. That is bilateral agreement. Understood? Yes, sir. Understood. It's very easy. Okay. Sir, let's talk about the third one. Friends, it is regional preferential trade agreement. Regional preference trade agreement. Regional preference trade agreement. Regional preference trade agreement. Regional preference trade agreement. So what happens, friends? I'll give you an example. Suppose, for example, there is an organization called SAARC, SAARC, SAARC. Okay, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. So it's basically SAARC is basically the South Asian countries, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation. So suppose SAARC countries decide that between SAARC countries, there will be free trade or there will be low rate of taxes. That would be a preferential trade agreement as per region, regional preferential trade agreement. So mutually, it will be between multiple countries. Reduce trade, reduce trade barriers between countries, reduce trade barriers between countries, reduce trade barriers between countries for only members of the group, for only for only members of the group. That is regional preference trade agreement. 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 Hopefully it's crystal clear to everybody. Great news. Great news, great news, great news. Done, sir. Sir, we have understood regional preference trade agreement. Sir, can you give an example? Yes, global system of trade preferences. It is basically what countries, which countries are willing to come together to make up that agreement. Okay. Global system of trade preferences. Global system of trade preferences. So whichever countries want to come together, they can form this group. बेसिकली होगा क्या यहाँ पर कि जो कंट्रीज साथ में आएंगी उन लोग एक दूसरे को फेवर करेगी इन टर्म्स ऑफ कम टैक्सेस चार्ज करना या फेवरेबल पॉलिसीज एक दूसरे के लिए बनाना वैसा काम चल रहा होगा. That is regional preference trade agreement. That is regional preference trade agreement. Or regional preference or preferential. You can say preference or preferential. Preferential is the better word. Preferential. Okay. Regional preferential trade agreement. That's the third one. That's the third one. That's the third one. Done, sir? Yes, sir, done. The fourth one is trading block. 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 Trading block. So, sir, what is a trading block? Here, what happens? I'll give you an example. Example is IFTA, European Free Trade Association. So, what happens? European countries impose no taxes on each other. But if anybody from outside comes, outside Europe, suppose India, then on Indian commodities, they will impose tax. But among themselves, they are not going to impose tax. So, it is much like this one only, Regional Preferential Trade Agreement. Only the name is different. Okay. So, group of countries, यहाँ क्या है, कंट्री की ग्रुप्स आती हैं और इन लोग एक दूसरे को फेवर करती हैं, टैक्सेस नहीं चार्ज करती, पर साथ में मिलके अगर कोई बाहर से दूसरा कंट्री का एक्सपोर्ट और इंपोर्ट हो रहा है तो उस पर ये लोग टैक्सेस लगाएंगे. ओके सर, बात समझ में आ गई. ओके सर, वी आर क्लियर. सो बेसिकली व्हाट हैपेंस इज ग्रुप ऑफ कंट्रीज that have a free trade agreement that have a free trade agreement between themselves between themselves and may apply a common tariff and may apply a common tariff to other countries and may apply a common tariff to other countries. Friends, example is EFTA, European Free Trade Association. European Free Trade Association. European Free Trade Association. So friends, the example is IFTA. EFTA. IFTA is the example of the trading bloc. Of the trading bloc. Group of countries that have a free trade agreement between themselves and may apply a common tariff to other countries. Example, European Free Trade Agreement. Is that clear, friends? Yes, you can say there will be a cartel-like structure formed, correct? Trading bloc. Next is free trade area. Free trade area. Free trade area. It is NAFTA, North American Free Trade Area. So NAFTA, free trade area. Free trade area. Here what happens is, among themselves, no taxes. But, what was happening in trading bloc? They were applying common tax to outside country. हिंदी में बोलूं तो ट्रेडिंग ब्लॉक में क्या हो रहा था, यूरोपियन कंट्रीज आपस में एक दूसरे पे कोई टैक्स नहीं लगा रही थी, पर अगर इंडिया इन्वॉल्व होगा तो सबको 10% लगाएंगे. तो यूरोप में जितनी कंट्री होगी सब इंडिया पे 10% टैक्स लगाएगी इंडियन इंपोर्ट्स पे. ठीक. फ्री ट्रेड एरिया कैसे अलग हुआ? फ्री ट्रेड एरिया में क्या होता है कि इसमें भी ग्रुप ऑफ कंट्रीज है जो साथ में आती है और एक दूसरे के साथ अगर एक्सपोर्ट इंपोर्ट करे तो वो लोग टैक्सेस नहीं लगाएंगी. पर अगर कोई नॉन मेंबर कंट्री इन्वॉल्व हो गया पर अगर कोई नॉन मेंबर कंट्री इन्वॉल्व हो गया तो उसके ऊपर क्या टैक्स लगाना है ये लोग इंडिपेंडेंटली डिसाइड करते हैं. ऐसा नहीं है कि सब मिलके 10 ही लगाएंगे. एक्स कंट्री जो है 10 लगा सकती है, वाई कंट्री 5% लगा सकती है. देयर इज सम काइंड ऑफ फ्रीडम इन फ्री ट्रेड एरिया. Sir, translate it into this one, English. So basically what happens in free trade area is, yes, among the member countries, there would be no tariff, of course, but as far as a non-member country is concerned, each country is independent to decide their own tariff rate. So it's not a compulsion like the trading bloc that all have to have a common tariff rate for a non-member. No, it's not going that way. Yes, sir, it's crystal clear. Yes, sir, it's crystal clear. So let's write free trade area. Let's write about free trade areas. Group of countries, group of countries, group of countries, group of countries that eliminate tariff among themselves, but independently decide tariff rate for non-member country, but independently decide tariff rate for non-member country. That's free trade area for you, everyone. That's free trade area, everyone. Is that clear, friends? If it's clear, then we'll talk about customs union, the sixth one. If that is clear, then we will talk about sixth one, customs union. Okay, let's go. So friends, the sixth one is customs union. The sixth one is customs union. Customs union. Customs union. These are group of countries that eliminate all tariff on trade among themselves. Among themselves. And a common tariff outside the union. So it is just like the trading bloc. Just like trading bloc, in different countries, the name is different. Bus. So customs union. Basically, it is in South America, such kind of dealing. Group of country that eliminate countries. Group of countries that eliminate all tariff, all tariffs on trade among themselves, on trade among themselves, but maintain a common, but maintain a common, but maintain a common external, but maintain a common external tariff on trade with countries outside India, on trade with countries, on trade with countries outside India, on trade with countries outside India, on trade with countries outside India, on trade with countries outside India. That is, dear students, customs union, customs union, customs union. Customs union, you can say, customs union is, you can say, it's almost the same. It's almost the same. It's almost the same. Customs union, you can say, is almost the same as trading bloc. That's almost the same as trading bloc. No as such hard differences prevailing. Right? Friends, now I'll talk to you about much important things. This was very basic in nature. Just read once. Sir, it is there in Institute's Mat or what? Yes, of course, we are doing from Institute Mat only. I'll just show it to you. Just say you can read it for your better understanding. Here it is. See, unilateral trade agreement, bilateral agreement, regional preference, trading bloc, free trade area, custom union, common market. Common market is like European Union, ASEAN. What is the meaning of common market? Means they will also have common currency, common rules and regulations. There will be tariff, then there will be rules and regulations. Common currency will be there. Common currency will be there. So that is what common market is about. Understood? That is what common market is all about. Now let's talk about this one, economic and monetary union. What is the characteristic of economic and monetary union? The members share a common currency. For example, European Union. I will write it down for you all. European Economic and Monetary Union. Let's write it down. Economic and Monetary Union. Just a minute. Okay. One more is there. So seventh one is Economic and Monetary Union. What is Economic and Monetary Union? Common currency, bus. Economic and Monetary Union. Economic and Monetary Union. Economic and Monetary Union. Common currency, bus. That is what you need to know and understand. Hopefully it's crystal clear, everyone. Like example, European Union. Example, European Union. Example, European Union. I told to trading bloc and custom union, there is no difference as such. Trading bloc and custom union, there is no difference as such. People are asking, ki, sir, what is the difference between this and this? Okay. Trading bloc has countries that have free trade agreement between themselves and apply a common tariff to other countries, while custom union, same, maintain a common tariff on trade with countries outside the union. Right? Example are Southern Common Market, and Gulf Cooperation Council. Just remember the examples, okay? Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC, Gulf Cooperation Council, Customs Union example, Gulf Cooperation Council, Customs Union example, Gulf Cooperation Council. Very important, bus. So there is no as such any hard difference between the two. Is that clear, friends? Yes or no? Okay. Now, friends, a very important discussion is going to start. Listen carefully now. Okay. What I tell you all is, suppose in India, there are two gentlemen, let's say Mr. X, Mr. Y. Okay. Let's say Mr. X is the seller, Mr. Y is the buyer. Okay. They were trading something, and as a result of trade, there was dispute. Huh? Mr. X is also from India. Mr. Y is also from India. Now my question to you is, there was a trade dispute that arose. 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 Okay, there was a trade dispute that arose. Fantastic. My question to you is a very simple one. Where will this dispute be settled? ये झगड़ा कहाँ settle होगा? ये झगड़ा कहाँ settle होना चाहिए आपके हिसाब से? Trade dispute means trade related fight, disagreement. Of course, they will go to the court. Of course, they will go to the court because both are in India. They will go to the court. Very good. They can go to High Court or Supreme Court depending on where they are staying. Okay. Assuming that dispute is that big. Okay. Yes or no? Yes, sir. But this was the scenario if both the basically countries had been in India. If both the countries or both the members would have been from India. If both the members would have been from India, then this would be an ideal scenario. But what if Mr. X from India and Mr. Z from US, or basically India and USA, have a trade related dispute, who is going to settle that? Yes. Because India will tell, Indian courts will settle. USA will say, no, American courts will settle. So in such scenario, the court system or the judiciary system of the country fails. And in such a scenario, there are some international organizations, international organizations for making international organization for making trade related rules and regulations. International organizations for making trade related rules and regulations. For making trade related rules and regulations. Mainly two organizations are there in our syllabus. We are going to talk about them. International organizations for making trade related rules and regulations. Two organizations is what we are going to talk about. Number one is GATT, General Agreement on Trade and Tariff. I will write its full form also. General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. 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 And the second one would be WTO for trade related matters. For trade related matters. कंट्रीज के बीच में कोई भी इशू अराइज हो ट्रेड से रिलेटेड, तो वो जीएटीटी में पहले रेफर होता था, आजकल डब्ल्यूटीओ में होता है. अवर सिलेबस डिमांड्स, हमारी सिलेबस का मांग है कि हमें दोनों के बारे में पता हो, दैट वी शुड नो अबाउट both of them. So I will start talking about them once all of you are ready. Come on friends, are we ready everyone? Is this clear? What do GATT and WTO do? Making trade related rules and regulations. Making trade related rules and regulations. Making trade related rules and regulations. For domestic, they can settle in courts, but for international, they cannot. That is what my point is, dear students. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let's talk about GATT. General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. Let's talk about GATT. GATT के बारे में अपन बात करते हैं. आइए. General Agreement. General Agreement. The General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. So that is what GATT is. That is what GATT is. Yes or no, everybody? Yes or no, everybody? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So number one, when was GATT operative from? When was GATT operative from? So let's talk about it. GATT was operative from, friends, 1948. So established in 1948 until 1994. Why? Because beyond 1994, WTO came. So sir, why did GATT fail? GATT fail क्यों हो गया? Mainly two reasons I can think of. GATT failed. There are mainly two reasons I can think of. Because see, GATT was formed in 1948. In 1948, most of the country had recently gained freedom like India, or and some countries were still under some colonial rule. So the problem here was that there were not many member countries of GATT. Second thing was, GATT was generally covering trading in goods. It was rarely talking about trading in services. Service related rules were not there. So basically, GATT had become an old concept, an outdated thought process. and hence WTO replaced it. Because by the time WTO came, that is in 1995, then majority of the countries had gained freedom, number one. And number two, there was a realization that internet is booming, service industry is going to boom. So service related rules and regulations are also going to be of crucial importance. Understood, not understood, friends? Yes, sir, we have understood this. Yes, sir, we have understood this. So here it is GATT. See, the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade covers international trade, trade in goods. See, I told you na, it covers mainly goods. It covers mainly goods. GATT lost its relevance in the 1980s. It failed. So GATT had number one, Goods Council, which had 10 committees. GATT had Goods Council that talked about goods. Goods Council, which was further having 10 committees dealing with different issues like agriculture, etc. You see here, like dealing with agriculture, market, subsidy, etc. etc. But sir, why GATT lost its relevance or importance? Very important point. Why GATT lost its relevance? क्यों GATT जो है वो पुराना हो गया था? क्यों GATT की अब वो रिस्पेक्ट नहीं बची थी? जैसा मैंने आपको बताया, the world was becoming complex. Globalization, trade was increasing, investments were increasing. Now intellectual property and services were not covered by GATT. I told you all, services not covered by GATT, intellectual property rights, huh? Know-how, patent, trademarks, that were not covered by GATT. So there were a lot of problems there. World trade increased by leaps and bounds. So GATT was not that big an organization to deal with so many issues. And agricultural trade was not successful. The goal was to liberalize it. And it was not a treaty. And therefore, terms of GATT were binding only insofar as they are not incoherent with the nation's domestic rules. Since it was not a treaty, it was just an agreement. See, if it is a treaty, then no country can violate it. A very important difference between a treaty and agreement. Do you know? I think you must have studied it in law. If not, then let me tell you a very important difference. Treaty and agreement and a general agreement has one basic difference. In treaty, number one is the international rules that is written in treaty, and number two is the country rules, domestic rules of the country. But in agreement, country rules come first, and second comes, this rules made under the different international systems, international rules. They come second. Understood? Yes, sir, understood. So let's talk about that now. So let's talk about it now. So let's talk about it now. So let's talk about it now. Goods Council had 10 committees. Relevance means use, logic, jarurat. So GATT lost its, GATT lost its, relevance. GATT lost its relevance as international trade scenario, international trade scenario was becoming complex. As international trade scenario was becoming very complex, very confusing that way. International trade scenario was becoming very complex. GATT did not cover IPR, intellectual properties, intellectual property and GATT did not cover intellectual property and GATT did not cover intellectual property and what else it did not cover? Services. Third point was it was not a treaty. It was not a treaty. So these were some of the reasons why lost its relevance. Now, friends, I will be taking the doubts of you all for the next 5 to 7 minutes. In the meantime, those who need break can go, but I am taking doubts, so I am not going anywhere. मैं कहीं नहीं जा रहा, मैं doubts ले रहा हूं. बाकी जिनको कोई भी सवाल है, अब आप लोग हमसे पूछ सकते हैं. I am ready. अब आप लोग बोलेंगे, मैं चुप रहूंगा और मैं खाली डाउट सॉल्व करूंगा. कम ऑन एवरीवन, आस्क योर डाउट्स प्लीज. ओके. यस. रेलिवेंस का मतलब है यूज केस. इंपॉर्टेंस. रेलिवेंस मींस इंपॉर्टेंस. वन ऑफ यू आस्क रेलिवेंस का मीनिंग. आशंका आस्ट. तो आशंका रेलिवेंस का मतलब होता है इंपॉर्टेंस, जरूरत. कैट की जरूरत 1980 के दशक में खत्म होती चली गई. प्रियंका, रेलिवेंस का मतलब होता है इंपॉर्टेंस, जरूरत. कैट की जरूरत धीरे धीरे खत्म होती चली गई और एक बेहतर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की जरूरत सामने आ खड़ी हुई. The need for GATT was gradually diminished and a need for a more robust organization was to be seen. First of all, GATT did not cover intellectual property rights and services, and it was not a treaty, so therefore not strictly binding. Is that clear, friends? No. When there was GATT, WTO did not come. मैंने अभी तक WTO के बारे में कुछ बताया ही नहीं है, so don't ask. Because अब स्टार्ट होने वाला है WTO. We will start WTO. जब गैट था तब WTO नहीं था. When there was GATT, WTO did not exist. WTO was a replacement of GATT. So now from 1995 you will see that GATT will come into confidence. Priyanka, trading bloc means basically a group of countries who free each other's trade, but for external countries they fix a different tax rate, but among themselves they keep the trade completely free. Yes, Khush, it is. Government procurement policy means government purchase policies. Universal means throughout the world. Universal means throughout the world, everywhere. Yes, GATT was continued till Miss Kavita Gunjal. Yes, GATT was continued till around 1994, despite it losing its relevance in the 80s. The work for this one, WTO had already started. But see, any organization which is robust takes time to be formed, na? Because a lot of debate goes on. Ashinka, anti-dumping discussion we did in last class. Refer to the last class. Okay. So friends, let's talk about a robust organization, WTO. Let's talk about it. WTO, a very robust organization. Let me tell you some important points about it. Yes, you have to read the full institute material. The ICI material you have to read full. That is, of course, very, very important. But apart from that, please listen carefully. Number one, WTO. First of all, it was the outcome of Uruguay round. So if in exam you are asked that WTO was a result of which round? So remember, it was the result of Uruguay round. Uruguay round. It came as a result of Uruguay round. Okay. When was the beginning of WTO? Friends, it is around 1st July 1995. It is called the birthday of WTO. Birth of WTO. Now, of course, we must try and understand the number of members. So, friends, initially there were 123 members, but as of now, but as of now, but currently, if you tell me, there are 164 countries. Initially, there was 123 member countries when it was formed, but today there are 164 member countries. So you can easily see it was very popular among countries, and you need an organization so powerful that all the countries abide by its rules and regulations. Only then it is a use case. Right, sir. Understood, sir. So, so WTO was outcome of Uruguay round. What is Uruguay round? उरुग्वे इज अ प्लेस, ओके। उरुग्वे एक जगह है, वहां पर बहुत सारी मीटिंग्स कंट्रीज की चल रही थी 5 साल 6 साल 7 साल से। उसको बोलते हैं उरुग्वे मीटिंग या उरुग्वे राउंड। ठीक है। इट केम फाइनली, इट वाज फाइनलाइज्ड ऑन 1st July 1995. Initially it had 123 member countries. Currently it has 164 member countries. Hopefully it's clear, everyone. Is that clear? Now, what were the objectives of basically WTO? Objectives of WTO. Number one, number one is raise the standard of living. Number one is to raise the standard of living. Number one is raise the standard of living of the member people in member countries, ensuring full employment, ensuring full employment and a rise in aggregate demand, ensuring full employment and a rise in aggregate demand, ensuring full employment and a rise in aggregate demand, or you could say effective demand. The better word is effective demand, and a rise in effective demand. So the trade between member countries rise, you see. Expanding production, yes, very important, friends. Expanding production and trade in goods and services. Expanding production, comma, trade in goods and services. So these were some of the objectives you could say, you could say of WTO. Now we will discuss the structure of WTO as to how it was structured, as to how it was structured. But before that, we have to understand where its headquarter is. WTO headquarters. Okay. So there were three main objectives of WTO. Number one, to raise the standard of living. लोगों का जो लिविंग स्टैंडर्ड्स है, इतनी वैरायटी ऑफ गुड्स मिल जाए लोगों को कि उनका लिविंग स्टैंडर्ड्स इंप्रूव हो जाए. आज आप सोचिए ना, मेरे पास एक घड़ी है, आप लोगों के पास एक घड़ी है, हमारा स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग तब इंप्रूव हो रहा है ना. अवर स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग इज राइजिंग व्हेन वी हैव वैरायटी ऑफ ऑप्शंस अवेलेबल. If we get only one option, is it a good living standard? No. So number one is raise the standard of living, ensuring full employment, ensuring full employment and a rise in effective demand. Number three, expanding production and trade in goods and services. Number three, expanding production and trade in goods and services. Expanding production and trade in goods and services. Expanding production and trade in goods and services. Got it, sir? We understood. All right. So my question to you all is, do you have any idea where its headquarter is? WTO headquarter? Any guesses, please? Yes. Headquarter is in Geneva, Switzerland. WTO headquarters, Geneva, Switzerland. Geneva, Switzerland. Now, friends, we will talk about, if this much is clear, then we will talk about structure of WTO. Then we will talk about structure of WTO. Structure of WTO, like how it is divided, how it is divided. So friends, I could say that there are three major levels, three main levels, and then there is a fourth level also, but that is last level as we call it. Level one. Level one, friends, has ministerial conference. Ministerial conference. Conference. Sir, what do they do? Any multilateral trade related discussion. Any multilateral trade related discussion. Any multilateral trade related discussion. Any multilateral trade related discussion is done by this category of people, the level 1 ministerial conference. The level 1 ministerial conference. Remember, the meeting for WTO formation was held in Uruguay, but its headquarter is in Geneva, Switzerland. Okay. Okay. So structure of WTO is level 1 ministerial conference. Understood everybody? Okay. Then you have the level 2. How WTO is organized? General Council. General Council. They generally look into trade disputes related matter. Generally speaking, they relate to trade disputes. They look into trade disputes. Okay. And finally is the level 3. These are responsible for actual work. It covers all the councils. It has goods council. Now GATT का यही problem था. The problem with GATT was it had only goods council. Now level 3 has goods council. There is service council. There is council related to intellectual property called trade. Intellectual property. Property. Intellectual property like patent, trademark, copyrights. So friends, they report to general. They report to general council. They report to general council and responsible for, they are actually responsible and responsible for implementing WTO rules, implementing WTO rules or implementing WTO decisions. So whatever decisions are taken on the floor of WTO, this council, that is the level 3 council, goods council, service council and intellectual property council looks into it. Acha, there can be one full form that can be asked in exam. TRIPS. So remember the full form is trade related. This also comes under WTO level 3 only. Trade related intellectual property rights. Trade related intellectual property rights. Just remember that. Trade related intellectual property rights. So friends, how many important levels of WTO are there? 3. WTO का important levels कितना हुआ? 3. Level 1 ministerial, level 2 general, level 3 goods council, service council and intellectual property. Is that clear friends? Yes or no? Okay, great. Okay, great. And finally, friend, there is a last level committee called working group. They are just for providing support. I'll tell you how. They are the last level committee. They are the last level committee called the working group. Sir, what do they do then? सर इनका क्या काम होता है सर? लास्ट लेवल ग्रुप या वर्किंग कमेटी का क्या काम होता है सर? बेसिकली they deal with membership applications. Suppose some country wants to become a member, so they deal with their application. Deal with membership application. They deal with membership application, environment related matters, etc. They deal with individual property matters, environment related issues, etc. Environment related issues, etc. Friends, is that clear? Yes or no? Come on, guys. Okay, sir. It's clear, everyone. Right, sir. It's clear. Now we will study this portion from the material. You see, I have told you about the Uruguay round, WTO, main objectives. I have told you structure of WTO we have done. Okay. This is the structure of the top WTO that we have discussed, where we talked about the three-tier system of decision making. Yes or no? We talked about the General Council. Yes or no? We talked about TRIPS, trade-related intellectual property. Yes or no? Yes, sir. We understand this. Now we are going to study a very important agenda, that is guiding principle of WTO. Now what we are going to study? Guiding principles of WTO. So friends, now be ready, because it's a very important area that we are highlighting. Here, we are going to also discuss institutes, MCQs. Institutes, MCQs. We are also going to solve this in the class now only. Okay, let's go. But before we do the guiding principles, let me discuss a few points first. Here it is. Which of the following culminated in the establishment of WTO? A very easy question. If you all have heard so far the lecture, you will be able to answer correctly. Come on. What say everyone? WTO was formed under what? Was culminated under which round? We have discussed that. Very good. I can see the answers coming and everybody remembers. That is very good to see. People are telling the Uruguay round. Very good, friends. Let's see what else we have been given. Point two, what is it? The GATT was, choose the correct statement. Okay. GATT was meant to prevent exploitation of poor countries by richer countries. No. GATT dealt with trade in goods only, while WTO covers services as well as intellectual property. Perfect answer. Perfect answer. I'm sure you all will agree. National treatment principle, we have not studied so far. So I will discuss that and then we'll come back to it. Yes. Bound tariff, we have discussed. Bound tariff, we have discussed. Bound tariff, we have discussed. Upper limit on the tariff that a country can levy on a particular good according to its commitment under the GATT and WTO. So above this bound tariff, you cannot raise the taxes. बाउंड टैरिफ मान लीजिए 20% है, तो आप किसी भी फॉरेन कंट्री से इंपोर्ट और एक्सपोर्ट पे आपकी सरकार 20% से ज्यादा टैक्स नहीं लगा सकती. इसको बोलते हैं बाउंड टैरिफ. इससे रिलेटेड डिस्कशन अपने लास्ट डे किए थे. फ्रेंड्स, यस और नो? कम ऑन. MFN principle we have not done so far, so we are not discussing that. Okay. The WTO. The WTO. Let's see the sixth one. Let's see the sixth one. Has now been replaced by GATT. Wrong. GATT has been replaced by WTO. Array, the correct statement is GATT has been replaced by WTO and not the other way around. Okay. Has an inbuilt mechanism to settle disputes. Yes. I talked about level 2, if you remember. That has a trade policy review body and a dispute settlement body. In level 2, we have discussed. Was established to ensure free and fair trade internationally. Yes. So both are the correct answers. Okay. Friends, for the time being, I am only skipping those questions which we are yet to discuss. Okay. So not a big deal. We will cover them. Now, the WTO commitments affect whom? The developed countries? No. Developed countries are never affected. They are always winning. They affect developing countries more because they need to make radical adjustments. Yes. Because developing countries have to change a lot. आप ऐसे सोचिए ना, आप ऐसे सोचिए, मैं आपको एक सिंपल सा एग्जांपल देता हूं, आपको ये पॉइंट समझ में आ जाएगा, है ना? मैं हिंदी में बोलूंगा, फिर मैं इंग्लिश में बोलूंगा, ठीक है ना? मैं हिंदी में बोलता हूं पहले. मान लीजिए दोस्तों, आप लोगों की एग्जाम्स खत्म हो गई और बारी आया रेस्टोरेंट जाने का या किसी कैफे में जाके सेलिब्रेट करने का. ठीक है? आप लोग 5 दोस्त हैं. अब आप ये समझो कि तीन दोस्त ऐसे हैं जिनके पास बहुत अच्छा पैसा है, जिनकी फैमिली वेल ऑफ है, और जो दो दोस्त हैं वो रिलेटिवली मिडिल क्लास है या पुअरर बैकग्राउंड से है। तो जब ये लोग रेस्टोरेंट या कैफे जाएंगे ना, इनको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा कि रेस्टोरेंट का बिल कितने का आ रहा है, बट इन दो को फरेगा। बस उसी तरह से आप समझ लें कि ये जो मेंबर कंट्रीज है ये पांच दोस्तों की तरह है। डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज इन तीन दोस्तों की तरह है जिसके पास बहुत पैसा है, और अंडर डेवलप्ड या डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज ये दोस्तों की तरह है जहां थोड़ा सा कमजोरी है। तो इनको ज्यादा दर्द होगा ना कोई भी बदलाव की वजह से। सर अंडरस्टूड। Now in English. Now in English. Friends, suppose your exams are over and you five friends, there are five friends you have, and you all decide to, let's say, go to a restaurant or a cafe. Now, when a bill comes, the three friends who are from rich background, they will not care what the bill amount is, but the other two surely will do. Exactly my point. Exactly my point. Just like that, when WTO makes huge changes, the rich countries or the developed ones really don't care, while the poorer or the developing ones are severely affected. I am sure you have understood what I was trying to say. Come on, guys. Yes or no, guys? Come on. All right, sir. So now let's move to the remaining small part that is remaining. Okay. Acha, first let me tell you about Doha round. See, the Doha round basically is the Doha Development Agenda, which is the ninth round since the Second World War was officially launched, right? At the WTO's fourth ministerial conference in Doha, Qatar in November 2001. What is the goal of Doha round? The Doha round seeks to accomplish major modifications of international trade. So some changes in international trading. It comes under WTO only through lower trade barriers and revised trade rules. The negotiations include 20 areas of trade: agriculture, services, market access for non-agricultural products, okay, trade in services, etc. So some changes are requested internationally. This is the Doha round. Understood, everyone? Right, sir. Right, sir. Now let's talk about the two important agendas that we were supposed to. Guiding principle of WTO. Number one is most favored nation status. Number one is most favored nation status. What is most favored nation status? Each member of WTO, each member of WTO will treat other members equally. Each member of WTO will treat other members equally. So you can write it here in the material itself. Treat everyone equally. This is what is the scope. So if suppose India gives some favorable advantage to Bangladesh, if both are WTO members, then whatever advantage, then whatever advantage, then whatever advantage, then whatever advantage India has bestowed on Bangladesh, India has to bestow the same advantages to other member countries as well. That is MFN. Understood or not understood, everybody? Understood? This is called MFN treatment. Shall we talk about national treatment now? First principle of WTO. We are discussing guiding principles of WTO. The first is MFN, most favored nation. Second is national treatment. What is national treatment? What is national treatment? Suppose there is a foreign good and there is a local good manufactured in India itself. National treatment says that Indian government cannot create a discrimination between these two. They should be treated equally. Foreign goods should be treated once they have entered India. एक बार विदेशी सामान इंडिया आ गया, उसके बाद उनके साथ भी वही ट्रीटमेंट होगा जो ट्रीटमेंट लोकल गुड्स के साथ होता है. ऐसा नहीं होगा. It cannot happen that Indian government doesn't allow foreign goods to be sold but allow local goods to be sold. No, it is not going to happen. If the goods are same, then both have to be treated the same way. That is national treatment. That is national treatment. That is national treatment. Friends, is that clear? Yes or no? Come on, guys. So the first most favored nation principle says that each WTO member should treat other WTO members as the same. National treatment says that once a good enters our country, we should not differentiate or distinguish between a foreign good and a locally manufactured good. No, it should not happen. Sir, can you give an example? Sir, can you give an example of national treatment? Yes. मान लीजिए आपके घर में कोई रिलेटिव आता है, ठीक है, तो अगर आप उसे एक रिलेटिव की तरह ट्रीट करेंगे, बाहर वाले की तरह ट्रीट करेंगे, तो उसको भी अच्छा नहीं लगेगा. अगर वो रिलेटिव घर का ही है तो उसको घर जैसा ही ट्रीटमेंट चाहिए, हाँ या ना? दिस इज व्हाट WTO इज वांटिंग. ट्रीट इट एज इफ इट इज अ नेशनल गुड. डोंट डिस्क्रिमिनेट. अंडरस्टूड? नेशनल ट्रीटमेंट. नेक्स्ट इज free. Acha, freer. It should be free trade, not freer. I think R has been misprinted. No issues. Free trade gradually through negotiations. It means, it simply says lower trade barriers. Just write it down. Lower trade barriers means lower the rate of taxes, remove the quota requirements, quota restrictions, remove that so that the world opens up. और भी countries के बीच में खरीदना बेचना हो, even more countries involved into the trade of export and import of goods and services is what I am trying to say, everyone. Yes, Anuj, you are correct. Right, sir. Right, sir. Right, sir. So three principles we have done: MFN, national treatment, free trade. The fourth one is predictability. Predictability through binding and transparency means, what is predictability, sir? I will explain. I will explain. Suppose suddenly Indian government doesn't like a company coming to India, and so they impose a tax on the commodity of that company. It should not happen. Suddenly you cannot raise the taxes. There should be some predictability. Na? Sir, we did not understand. For foreign companies to sell their products into India or to invest into India, there has to be certainty na, that our money will be safe or our goods will be sold. Suddenly someday you are raising taxes, suddenly you are reducing taxes. That is a clear-cut case of economic instability. Nobody is going to come to your country then. सर हिंदी में बोलिए. प्रेडिक्टेबिलिटी का अर्थ है कि अचानक से सरकार किसी कंपनी के प्रोडक्ट पर, फॉरेन कंपनी के प्रोडक्ट पर टैक्स नहीं लगा सकती. टैक्स लगाना है तो वो ग्रेजुअल प्रोसेस होना चाहिए. अचानक से एक दिन खड़े होकर लगा दी, ये नहीं. उसके लिए डिस्कशन होना चाहिए WTO में कि क्यों टैक्स बढ़ाना जरूरी है, उसके बाद ये होना चाहिए. वरना तो कोई कंपनी आपको कभी ट्रस्ट ही नहीं करेगी आपकी कंट्री को, कि क्या पता आप टैक्स बढ़ा दो. So there should be predictability. Understood? Yes, sir. So it means foreign companies should be confident. Whoever is selling their product in India They should be confident. I'm writing it in one line. Foreign companies should be confident. You can write it along with me. Foreign companies should be confident. Could be confident that trade barriers will not be raised arbitrarily. That trade barriers, that trade barriers will not be raised arbitrarily. Will not be raised arbitrarily. Arbitrarily मतलब अचानक से. Should not be raised arbitrarily. Got it, sir. Sir, we got it, sir. Sir, can you move on, sir? Yes, surely. Promoting fair competition. Promoting fair competition. Next is promoting fair competition. The WTO is sometimes described as a free trade institution, but that is not entirely accurate. The system does not allow tariffs and, in limited circumstances, other form of protection. More accurately, it is a system of rule dedicated to open, fair, and undistorted competition. So there should be free competition. Okay. Means what is, sir, free competition? Example. Suppose India, what India does is anything that comes from Russia, India imports it at 10% taxes, suppose, and anything that comes from USA, India will import it as 20%. Now, this is unfair. Here, Russia is getting an unfair advantage. So this should not happen. ये नहीं होना चाहिए. This is a guiding principle of WTO. This is another guiding principle of WTO. Promoting fair competition. Promoting fair competition. Promoting fair competition. Right. Sir, what is the next one, sir? Sir, what is the next one, sir? Sir, what is the next one, sir? What is the next one, sir? Right. I'll tell you all. It is encouraging development and economic reform. Encouraging development and economic reform. So basically, the countries who are developing, WTO should help them to become developed nations, contributes to development. Over 3/4 of WTO are developed countries, developing countries, and countries in transition to market economies. So the goal should be that the developing countries gradually convert into developed economies and market economies if they are not. Understood, not understood, everyone? Yes, sir. So if we number it, MFN was 1, national treatment is 2, free trade is 3, predictability is 4, promoting free and fair competition is 5, and sixth one is basically encouraging development. Encouraging development. Sixth one is encouraging development. What else is there, sir? What else is there, sir? Mainly, these are the 6 ones that we need to know. Acha, remember, there should be transparency in decision making. Write it down. There should be transparency in decision making. Transparency in decision making should be there. There should be transparency in decision making. Write it down. Under guiding principles only. There should be dispute settlement mechanism. There should be dispute settlement mechanism. There should be dispute settlement mechanism. Environment protection should take place. environment protection should take place. Environment protection to take place. Environment protection to take place. All this, please remember. Transparency in decision making, dispute settlement mechanism, environmental protection to take place. Now we are going to study some famous agreements under WTO. Agreements under WTO. Put the heading agreements under WTO. Agreements under WTO. Agreements under WTO. World Trade Organization. Okay, so let's start. Number one, agreement on agriculture. Number one is agreement on agriculture. It aims at strengthening GATT disciplines and improving agriculture trade. It aims at improving agriculture trade. It aims at improving agriculture trade. It aims at improving agriculture trade. It includes specific and binding commitments made by WTO members in 3 areas of market access, domestic support, and export subsidies. So, agreement on agriculture talks about 3 important things. Remember, 3 important things, very important for MCQ. Market access, that is, the foreign companies can sell in our market. There should be domestic support for the products, and there should be export subsidy. So, if somebody is exporting then agricultural products, then the exporting country should not bestow tax on them or impose tax on them. So it talks about agreement on agriculture, fights about 3 points. It fights about 3 points. Number one, market access, domestic support, and export subsidy. Export subsidy. Subsidy should be there, but taxes should not be there. Subsidies can be given, but taxes should not be imposed. Why? Because export subsidy boosts exports. So export subsidy is good. Export subsidy is good. So again, and under agreement on agriculture, just remember the 3 words, bus, nothing else. Market access, word number one. Number one. Friends, number 2, domestic support. Friends, number 2, domestic support. And friends, number 3, export subsidies. Hopefully it's crystal clear, everybody. Yes, sir. Next, agreement on establishment of and application of sanitary and phytosanitary measures. Now, what are sanitary and phytosanitary measures? I explained last day. To protect people from germs, infections, pathogens, to protect plants, animals, and human beings. We had explained it in the last class only. So what it says is that such measures, sanitary and phytosanitary measures, should not be used to prevent such measures from being used for unjustifiable discrimination. So it should not be said, for example, Indian government should not say that, okay, this product coming from USA can have bacteria and virus, and therefore we will allow only domestic products. Of course, if it is reasonable proof, then that can be used. But if there is no reasonable proof and Indian government is just saying that, oh, no, we are afraid that foreign commodity can harm our individuals, our plants, our animals, then that is not justifiable logic. That is a clear-cut violation of sanitary and phytosanitary measures. WTO agreement, it is a violation. Sir, it's crystal clear. Sir, it's crystal clear. Next, let's talk about the next agreement. Agreement on textile and clothing. It replaced the multi-fiber agreement, which was prevalent since 74 and entailed import protection policies. Agreement on textile and clothing is also called ATC. Agreement on textile and clothing provides that textile trade should be deregulated by gradually integrating into the GATT discipline over a 10-year transition period. So, fiber or cloths do not completely come under this WTO and GATT. So, it says that it should be implemented. Agreement on textile and clothing. Next, agreement on technical barriers to trade. Agreement on technical barriers to trade. It aims to prevent standards and conformity assessment from becoming unnecessary trade barriers by securing their transparency with international standards. So, for example, Indian government cannot say that, okay, no, in India, for gold and diamond, we are having, for jewelry, we are having hallmark as our standard. So, if USA commodity is failing to meet hallmark standard, so we will not allow USA diamond and other jewelries. This should not happen. On technical grounds, trade should not be restricted. So what is done to prevent this, sir? International standards are established. So if a commodity, एक product अगर international standard से comply कर रहा है, if a product is complying with the international standards, then the member countries cannot restrict their import or export to other countries on the grounds that standards are not being met. If international standards are being met, they must be allowed to be imported and exported. You cannot say that, okay, it is not meeting the standards of our country. समझ में आया? बेसिकली यहां पर हम लोग ये पढ़ रहे हैं अग्रीमेंट्स के अंदर कि कोई भी कंट्री किसी भी मेजर को एक बहाने की तरह यूज ना करे डोमेस्टिक इंडस्ट्री को बचाने के लिए और फॉरेन गुड्स के साथ डिस्क्रिमिनेट करने के लिए. वैसा नहीं होना चाहिए. फायदा नहीं उठाना चाहिए उन मेजर्स का जो अपने लास्ट क्लास में पढ़े थे ट्रेड पॉलिसीज में. So advantage should not be taken of policies that we studied. Trade policy should be used for the right reasons to protect people. That is okay. But if it is indiscriminately being used, then it is wrong. No one will like your country. Understood, not understood, friends? Yes or no? Come on, guys. Friends, similarly, TRIMS talks about investment measures related to investment in other countries. So, there should not be any steps taken. There should not be any steps taken. ऐसा कदम नहीं उठाएगी कंट्री जिससे फॉरेन इन्वेस्टमेंट के साथ नाइंसाफी हो, डिस्क्रिमिनेशन हो. Understood, everyone? Again, anti-dumping agreement. You remember what is dumping? Dumping means when a country sells the commodity to other countries, even at losses, even at lesser than cost price, like China is doing. Seeks to tighten and codify disciplines for calculating dumping margins and conducting dumping investigation in order to prevent anti-dumping measures from being misused. Now, suppose the opposite country is not really dumping, but our country, India, tells that no, they are dumping. So I will impose anti-dumping duty. That is wrong. Anti-dumping duty should not be misused. You see, every point here is saying the same thing, that the trade policy measure that we have studied should not be misused. In simple, there are 16 points, but 16 points I can sum up in one line. What? That the trade policy instruments that we studied last class should not be misused. In one line, I have covered all the 16 points, though I am going to read all of them, but I think you have understood. Trade policies should not be misused. Trade policies should not be misused is the common agenda. Friends, is that crystal clear? Come on, guys. Yes, sir, it's clear. Then, what is the next one? Customs valuation agreement. Eliminate arbitrary valuation system. So, see, even if you have imposed some import duty or import taxes, okay? So, suppose the value of the commodity is rupees 10 crores. But as you know, that since the commodity has come from outside, The people say, no, no, it is 50 crores. So give tax on 50 crore rupees. That is unfair. So there should be international valuation system, and the goods for calculation of tax should be valued as per those systems. कुछ भी गुड्स का जो तो वैल्यू लगा के उस पर टैक्स कलेक्ट करने से नहीं होगा फॉरेन गुड्स. एक सिस्टम होना चाहिए जिसके हिसाब से गुड्स की वैल्यू कैलकुलेट होनी चाहिए और टैक्सेस उस हिसाब से लेना पड़ेगा. आर्बिट्ररी मींस जो मन में आया कुछ भी. Yes, sir, we did understand this. Let's see what the eighth one is. Agreement on pre-shipment inspection, PSI. So it intends to secure transparency of pre-shipment inspection, wherein a company designated by the importing country conducts inspection of the quality, volume, etc. of merchandise in the territory of the exporting country on behalf of the importing country's custom office and issue certificate. The agreement also provides for a mechanism for the solution of dispute between agencies and exporters. Friends, what is happening is that what initially pre-shipment was not happening. So when the product used to come in the importing country, then the importing country people would say, no, no, the product is of low quality or the product is of high value, etc. So now the rule is that the product will be inspected in the exporting country only before shipment. That is before being put into the truck or in the ship. And who will check? The importing country's custom officials or people on behalf of importing country's custom officials. So that is called pre-shipment inspection. So that later on you cannot say that no, 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 we do not agree. Yes. Understood, sir. Agreement on rules of origin provides for harmonization of rules of origin for application to all non-preferential commercial policy instruments. It also provides for dispute settlement and create the rule of origin committee. So basically, there should not be any kind of discrimination going on. Sir, what is rules of origin? Friends, you know, whenever import export is taking place, there is certificate of origin that is to be issued. What is certificate of origin? Certificate of origin tells the importer that where, in which country is the exported goods been made. Sometimes it happens that India will not take from Pakistan some goods. So certificate of origin requires that it is specified in the exporting countries or exporters documents that where these goods are made, the goods that the exporter is exporting. That is this agreement. Because we do not trade with enemy country. Agreement on import licensing procedures relate to simplification of administrative procedures and to ensure that their fair operation so that import licensing of different countries may not act as trade barriers. So huge import licensing requirement should not be there. No huge import licensing requirements. Otherwise, the people are, harassed. What they do is now the government realizes that exporting country जो है, government realizes that जो exporting country है, वो तो ऐसे रोक नहीं सक रही है या इंपोर्टिंग कंट्री ऐसे तो रोक नहीं सक रही है एक्सपोर्टिंग कंट्री को. तो गवर्नमेंट क्या करती है? इंपोर्टिंग रिक्वायरमेंट्स को टफ कर देती है जिससे इंपोर्ट ही नहीं कर पाए. तो जब हम इंपोर्ट ही नहीं कर पाएंगे तो सामने वाला एक्सपोर्ट क्या करेगा? If the government in my country makes the import regulation so stringent and so tough that I am unable to import, then automatically the exporting country will not be able to sell. So such kind of wrong practices should not prevail is being highlighted here. So friends, these are the different kinds of basically agreements. Then there is agreements on subsidies and countervailing measures aims to clarify definition of subsidy. What is subsidy? What is countervailing tax? Now friends, let's see we are able to solve MCQs or not. Let's see. Agreement on agriculture question, you remember we had skipped because of lack of knowledge on that part. Let's see now we are able to solve it or not. If we are able to, that's great news then. That's great news then. Let's start discussing that. Students, let's start discussing then. The agreement, please pay attention. The agreement on agriculture includes explicit and binding commitments made by WTO countries related to three words. Three words I told you to remember: market access, domestic, and export subsidies. Here are the three words. See, I told you in an MCQ examination, you don't have to learn everything. Just read and remember the keywords. That is the secret. Next, third one, national treatment principle question also we had skipped. What does it say? Procedures within the WTO for resolving agreements? No. Principle that imported products are to be treated no worse in domestic market than the local ones? Yes. No worse means same status. Just like foreign goods are there, जैसे foreign goods है national treatment बोलता है, वैसे ही domestic goods और foreign goods को equally treat किया जाएगा. जैसे domestic goods है वैसे ही foreign goods को treat किया जाएगा. Next, essence of most favored nation principle. What is the main objective of most favored nation principle? Most favored nation principle essence. Equality of treatment, yes. Favor one country, you need to favor all the other countries, yes. So all of the above. अगर आप एक कंट्री को फेवर किए तो सबको फेवर करना होगा, सबको इक्वली ट्रीट करना होगा. दैट इज द मेन एसेंस ऑफ मोस्ट फेवर्ड नेशन, एवरीबॉडी. What is this saying? Agreement on textile and clothing. Textile and clothing. It replaced the multi-fiber agreement which was prevalent in 74. Yes, we have discussed this. Textile and clothing agreement we have discussed. Then we have the trade related aspects agreement. See, here we will discuss it. Here it is. Agreement on trade related aspects. This agreement stipulates that most favored nation treatment and national treatment, such as copyright, trademarks, etc., and undisclosed information. In addition, it requires member countries to maintain high level of protection. So suppose some technique, some intellectual property was made in USA. Now India comes to know. So India cannot start producing the same thing because it is the property of USA. So only USA companies have the right to produce that. That is the respect for intellectual property. If India says that no, I will also produce, that is unfair. That is wrongdoing now. Sir, we understand. So what does it say? Stipulates to administer enforcement of intellectual property, provides for most favored nation treatment and national treatment. Yes, high level of intellectual protection by all members. So everybody will seek to ensure कि सारी कंट्रीज का जो इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टीज है उसको हम लोग छापे नहीं, कॉपी नहीं करें, रिस्पेक्ट करें. The most controversial topic in yet to conclude in the Doha agenda is a very easy question, friends. Agriculture goods, it is not yet concluded. In Doha agenda, agricultural goods trade is not yet concluded. Doha agenda, 2001, Qatar. So friends, with this discussion, we have been able to cover all the MCQs and the entire topic of this unit. Next day, we are going to talk about new unit. That's it for the day. Revise this properly. Revise this properly. Read each and every line of ICAI material. You will never lose marks. Trust me, I am giving you 100% assurance. You will never lose marks if after this class you have read the book once properly. That's it for the day. Thank you very much. Goodbye, friends. Yes, yes, yes.